In my opinion, there is no finer game in the Master System library than Psychic World. That's right, Psychic World. It's not Sonic or Phantasy Star, it's not Alex Kidd or even Fantasy Zone, it's Psychic World. Originally released as Psycho World on the MSX2 in 1988 by the little-known company Hertz, it was then ported to the Master System and Game Gear in 1991 with the friendlier name we now know it by. So, why didn't it do so well? Honestly, I think the box art. It looks a little too much like Phantasy Star's box art, and the people may have passed it up as an inferior product, despite it being nothing like the magnum opus of 8-bit RPGs. The MSX Originals art looks amazing. Seriously, I want a poster or a wall scroll or something of that. And the Game Gears had a really cool color scheme, definitely gave off that Psychic vibe, but on the Master System, it looks too much like Phantasy Star. It would have sat right next to it on the shelf.
Look, I could wax poetic about the history of this game all day long and theories as to why you've never heard of it before, but you're not interested in that. You want to know how it plays, and, well, what the plot is, so let's dive right in.
Ah, yes, the plot. Much like everyone's favorite NES Ninja game, Psychic World has a story and the gorgeous anime-inspired cutscenes to complement them. You take the role of Lucia as you and your sister Cecile are lab assistants to Dr. Navik. The good doctor is conducting research into ESP until one fateful day the creatures he is experimenting on escape, and they take Cecile with them. Dr. Navik outfits you with a headset designed to boost your ESP abilities, and you set off to save your sister. It's your basic save the damsel in distress stuff that was common to video games of this era. Instead of some guy trying to save his girlfriend, it's a tale of two sisters. It's just different enough to make it something kinda special, at least for the time it was made. Levels are introduced with a hilarious cutscene, much like in Kirby's Adventure. It helps keep things from being too serious. Sure, it's got the typical platformer levels, a fire stage, an ice stage. You've seen it all before, but it's executed in a way to utilize your psychic powers, like using your ice powers to create platforms, or fire to destroy them. Bosses can be damaged by some powers and are weak against others. That's right, Mega Man style. And let's talk about your ESP abilities because you need to master them all to traverse this game. You start with the basic short single shot attack, but as you progress, it will level to 2 and even 3 shots, and all your attack abilities will do this. Switching between powers is easy. You just hold down the 2 button, push down on the D-pad, and then you can select the skill you want to use. Other abilities include flight, invincibility, and even the ability to restart the levels, which is great if you're about to die or you just want to level up your attack. The level reset skill is also nice because Psychic World only grants you 1 life. If you're going to try a no-death run or get a high score, you're going to need to reset the level. Not to mention, puzzles in the later stages of the game need to be solved a specific way, and if you mess up, then you just reset the level and try again. With the idea of only having 1 life and puzzles that could potentially trap you and make the game sound extra hard, it's really not. In fact, Psychic World is one of the easiest games I've ever played, and I beat it on my first playthrough, yet I always come back to it again and again and again because, well, it's just that much fun. Not to mention that despite the cakewalk difficulty, the game's set pieces make it look and sometimes seems harder than it really is. Like this collapsing bridge in the volcano. Nowhere to jump, and it's not that hard at all, but it feels intense every time I do it. Or check out this room at the final part of the game. First time I entered it, my heart stopped. A room where the walls and floor and ceiling can all kill you, and you have to try and fly through it without touching anything. Sweet Baldur's Ghost, man, this is madness! Nah, actually it's pretty easy, but it is so much fun. There's a few bosses in this game that if you know where to stand, you can breeze through them without taking a hit. But despite how easy this all is, it never felt like the game was holding my hand. If anything, this is one of the few games that honestly made me feel like as I progressed, my character was turning into a total badass. And that, in and of itself, is an amazing feat that no other game has accomplished, well, at least not as well as this one has. If I had to complain about one thing, it's that the game seems a little too short, with only 5 levels. It seems like you're just getting started. You get all your abilities, you learn to master them, and then the game kinda ends. Even the exploration of it doesn't seem to be utilized to its full potential. I just feel like there could be a few more levels. Kinda like, well, I compare games to Mega Man a lot, but it almost seems like there needs to be something like Wily's Castles where you're using your abilities to really get through this. The final level does have that, but it's just one stage, and the game needed a bit more. And upon looking into it, I found out that the MSX version of the game actually did have more levels. And for the levels that were in this version as well, they were longer. And I've heard the Game Gear version got them cut down even more. In fact, Psychic World's game designer, Tsunemoto Sugawara, forgive me if I butchered this name at all, actually said this in an interview when asked about the Sega Master System and Game Gear versions of the games, and I quote, "Due to capacity limits, the number of stages had to be reduced, which unfortunately made the story feel very forced. I felt the redesigned stages were unpleasant and made the game into too much of a maze. I found it unfortunate that the game would pause when you switched to ESP powers. In the original game, time kept moving while you were choosing, which helped elevate the tension." To put it bluntly, what he was saying is that he felt that the Master System and Game Gear versions were, well, butchered. And to be completely honest, that just makes me like the game that much more. I mean, if the version that I've been playing that I regard as an absolute classic is like the bastardized version of the game, then that must mean the MSX original is a full-blown masterpiece. I really need to find a way to play that someday.
When we're talking about retro games, we're usually coming from one of two places. We either see it through our nostalgia goggles, or it's something new that we haven't played before. Maybe we just discovered it, or maybe we heard of it. But for me, Psychic World kind of falls into both. I didn't play it till I was 30, but it still had a huge impact on my childhood. So let me take you back for a moment. This is a game I used to see on the Game Gear all the time, and I wanted it. And I don't know what it was. My mom would go through like these phases. You know, like she let me get Streets of Rage, but I couldn't get Streets of Rage 2 because it was too violent. And Psychic World was one of those games that every time I saw it at Toys R Us or Best Buy, she'd say, "No, it deals with psychic powers, and we don't have that in this family." Kind of like the mom in Waterboy. Psychic powers are from the devil. But she never outright said that. She never let me get this game. I just really wanted it, and I would always imagine what it would look like. Playing this, I'd see the box, I'd stare at the back of it. I just really wanted this game. It just sounded so fascinating to me. So years later, I'm an adult, and I'm buying games on the Master System, trying to recreate my Game Gear library from when I was a kid. And one of the games I decided I needed to get Psychic World. I look all over. I look on Amazon, I look on eBay, GameTZ.com, all these places, and I can never find a copy. Other people who are buying games on the Master System seem to have it, but I can never find it. Well, never had any luck. Then comes December 26, 2013. The night my mother passed away. I'm up late, I can't sleep obviously, and I'm just browsing the internet trying to keep my mind from wandering to a dark place. And I go on eBay and I start looking at Master System games. For some reason it just pops in my head. Look up Psychic World. There it is. One copy in the UK, only about 20 bucks. Boxed, complete, manual, everything. It was like a sign. It was like my mother telling me, "Hey, it's okay, you can have that game now. I get it." So I created a PayPal account and an eBay account that night, and I bought Psychic World, and I was eager for this. And when it showed up a few weeks later, a lot of times I'll get something in the mail like this, and I'll toss it to the side, and I'll come back to it on the weekend. Not with Psychic World. As soon as that package was in my hand, I ripped it open, threw this game in, and as I said, I played straight through it. And I play through it at least once a month since then. Because, well, I hate to reiterate myself, but as I said at the top of the video, there is no finer game in the Master System library than Psychic World.